Well, good morning, Dawn. How are we? And welcome back
I'm
to
doing,
whatever this is, the
yeah, I'm
Dawn
doing
and
great.
Sean podcast. Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, this is the Dawn and Sean show.
Yeah,
Welcome,
yeah.
everybody.
Dun dun
I'm doing
dun.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm doing great.
excellent, excellent, excellent.
We need a jingle. I better start working on.
Yeah,
Can we start working on a jingle?
yeah. Let me think about it. I did go. My jingles are very makeshift. I sort of do them for my radio show, and it's just kind of like with Ruby's reviews. It's also had to like throw something together, and so you can hear me clicking in the background and stuff. But I quite like them. I quite like them. They're human. There's a human element to my
Well, you know what?
jingles.
This is actually a great way to introduce our episode today because let's collaborate on a jingle,
There you
right? So
go.
we're going to talk about collaboration today.
Yeah.
And Sean and I are going to collaborate on a jingle for our Dawn and Sean show.
It
Um,
needs to be done, doesn't it? Yeah, we need something. I don't know. You know, I'm thinking something like the news. Remember the old news sort of jingles that they
oh
ding ding
yeah,
ding ding ding
yeah,
ding ding
exactly.
ding 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 ding. This all dramatic sort of yeah, we need one of those really.
And then now tonight on,
Yeah.
except not the news, it'll be the Dawn and Sean show. But yes, we
Exactly.
need a jingle. I think that's
Yeah.
great. So we're
Woman
going to
adopts
collaborate on a jingle.
15 pigeons and yeah, exactly. Anyway, Dawn, yeah,
And freak rain shower comes through KZN in winter. That
yeah,
happened.
you were
That was a real
saying on the phone call before we started this. So you had a gig on Saturday, and we are in officially in the middle of winter. I mean, sort of 14th of July. So that would be in the then, and you're getting rain. You know, so if there's a guy on TikTok, actually, I'm doing a little podcast with Azol called Q the Crazy, and his on his TikTok he's just like, you know, this weather, he's going through his garden, like nothing's dying yet. It's the middle of winter and like he's got certain like flowers are starting to bloom. You know, the lemon tree is still making lemons and he's like, what's going on? You know, this whole, you know, it's just the
yeah.
world's changing, definitely. With regards to all
It
of that.
is. It is definitely changing.
But anyway,
Yeah, I
so
mean, like my farm is very wet and soggy, and we have got like cherry tomatoes still growing, but then they get clipped by frost. So we're still
okay.
getting winter cold, but now
Yeah.
it's just like wet and cold.
Yeah.
So now we just live in England for winter, basically.
Yeah, it feels like it's heading that way, isn't it? Because it's normally the domain of the Western Cape, that whole wet winter thing, and then but now it seems like
Yeah.
KZN and Gauteng's been really weird. So according, so this year and last year is the first where I've actually worked from home over winter. So I'm at home all
Mm.
day. I've been like, oh, it's really cold because I'm just sort of stationary in there. But I'm finding. I've been told that the last two winters have been pretty mild compared to others. So I don't know what's going. It seems to be a different experience for everyone else. So yeah, but it's definitely there's something muck, isn't there? Sort of regards to the weather and stuff
That's
like
a good way
that.
of putting it.
Yeah. All right, but
Yeah,
let's
I
get
mean, I think the weather in the world in general, which is probably why, and I'm going to bring us. I know you're trying as well, so I'm going to bring us back to our topic now, so we can
mm,
actually get started with the chat
yeah.
that we're here for. I think it's all the more reason to make sure we stay connected with people around the world, people close to us, people far away, and music is obviously the universal language,
Yeah.
crosses all the boundaries and all the borders,
Hmm.
and
And the
creates
weird weather.
connection in the most wonderful way. Yeah.
Mm, sure.
So like I think that collaboration is an amazing way to build extended sort of communities through music.
Sure.
And to grow yourself as an artist, right? So that for me has been the biggest draw card of collaboration
Mm,
has been personal growth factors when you collaborate with people. You get to pull your resources from a sort of marketing perspective. You get to connect with their fan base, and you get a lot of coming with this podcast. We're collaborating on a podcast, right? It
mm,
might not be a song, but we're still getting that same crossover between the people who listen to you, the people who listen to me, and and therefore we're helping both our individual and independent creative endeavors grow through collaboration.
Hmm.
and through something new that's formed out of that.
Mm.
And that's basically the same thing with music. You know, if you can collaborate with somebody who has got a completely different genre to you, a completely different group of people following them, there will still be people in that group that kind of listen to what you do and go, oh, wow, you know what? I actually really like that. I wouldn't have listened if I hadn't kind of been nudged over here by so and so,
Yeah,
or by
sure.
that collaboration that pulled me here.
Yeah.
So cross pollination is like a huge factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Artistically. Do you know
So
who's
I recently have done some collaboration with some artists on the other side of the world,
mhm.
which has been a very interesting journey because none of us have been in the same space or even in the same country, never mind in the same studio to actually
Um,
do the recording or the filming or anything like that. So yeah, it's certainly been an interesting journey.
yeah, the digital and internet's made that so much easier. I remember a guy
Yeah.
I met in Brighton. His band lived all over Europe. He lived in England, and his band lived all over Europe. There's a guy in Denmark, I think, another guy in Brussels or something. Anyway, so whenever they recorded, each person would record themselves and the bits, and then I don't know how they would start it, but they'd send it through and stuff. So it's almost like bands are now sort of becoming collaborators. But I would say the greatest collaborators, and they've been doing
Yeah.
it, and they've been leading the way in collaborations, probably the hip hop genres. Getting, say you got a singer, and then she has
True.
the hip hop break, the sort of 32 bars of rap, get Snoop Dogg on or someone and to sort of go and think. And he actually has appearance fees for that, collaboration fees. If you want him on, he'll come to, depends how long you want. So I think he does it by the bars. You want me to do 8 bars, 16 bars, 32, whatever. Or do you
Uh,
think, then he says, then he charges accordingly and he he comes in, writes the rap or whatever for the song and then, spits out those lyrics and then, yeah, he gets, I assume a check or a ETE whatever into his account, and that's that. That's part of the rap game now. It seems it's a big thing in hip hop.
I
You
mean,
know,
geez, that's quite an incredible thing, actually.
Uh,
It's quite an alternate way to generate income off your capacity to sort of
yeah,
write music and input bits and pieces into other people's work. And like obviously when you're someone like Snoop Dogg, you're wanted
mm.
for that. Someone like me who's kind of fairly early on in my sort of fame generating capacity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My
The
collaborations are
building the
more
barn
free
here.
and goodwill.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's getting to the point where you are sort of. I'm just trying to think. Sort of Eminem is a big, big collaborator. He does sort of, although he gets people onto his. I mean, he did that. Was that famous song that he did with
Yeah.
what's her name, the Dido. That
Rihanna.
whole, yeah, and he's done
Oh yeah, that
Rihanna,
one was
yeah.
incredible.
And Rihanna was, yeah, and then Dido, yeah, the Dido song, which he covered and then got Dido on to sing, you know what I mean? And that was a big, big track in the UK and stuff, collaboration. And it seems to be, it's almost a
Huge
way,
track, huge
sorry,
track here too.
sorry, who, what?
I was just saying, even for me in my youth, it was a huge track.
Yeah, it was a massive track, but it's
I'll
almost
wait for this to catch up.
as you said, yeah, we're sort of doing here, but it's almost a way to stay within the thing. So throw in the new the new sort of internet digital way of doing things now. It's a collaboration. Do you think is a way to stay in the public eye without the pressure of releasing an album, releasing a single? You can just go in and sort of, yeah, and then it's just a way of keeping your name out there, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it does make it easier because you're not responsible for all of the content
Hmm.
creation,
Yeah.
whether that is the actual song or whether it is the actual social media content either. It's a bit of both these things. So like the recent song that I collaborated on is a track called Cold, and it was written by Joe Brady in the USA, and he's from like a sort of grunge punk alternative and his band is called Scanner, and he wrote this track that would never have fit with their kind of genre of music. It
Hmm.
was definitely he tried and it just didn't. Okay, let me see what else we could do with this. And then him and Jukka Rottinen, who's from Finland, They are part of a collaborative act called Two Nails in a Coffin, but also
Right.
again like sort of grunge alternative rock, like um, and then you get me, and I'm like sort of folklore, fairy tale, Celtic folk, big a big guitar. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely not grunge
Not
anything,
you're not exactly Snoop
but
Dogg, are you?
we can no, not really. But I really have. I've always wanted to sort of push myself more. I love alternative rock. Like I grew up listening to alternative rock.
Hmm.
So I've always wanted to push myself in that direction anyway. So when the opportunity came up to collaborate with these two guys on a track that is sort of a middle ground, it's
Hmm.
like an alternative rock ballad duet.
Hmm.
It was a really nice challenge for me. And I didn't have to do any of the songwriting. I didn't have to play any instrument. I just had to sing. Just literally had to do the
Yeah.
vocals and figure out the like where the vocals should be going and like
Mm.
could sort of yeah, just to help to create the vocal sound of this track.
Mm.
Um and it was great fun. It was so much fun to
Yeah.
have no pressure on me to do anything else and just be able to focus on that and to focus
Mm.
on doing it to in a way that I wouldn't have done it left to my own devices, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah, it's fun.
and then you know,
you're not really paying for either. You're just kind of there to sort of add value to the art, and the pressure is off. Yeah, it's actually a fun way to do it. Yeah, I get that definitely. Has it helped
yeah, I
with
didn't
it?
have to worry about any.
Yeah, go on, go
I
on.
didn't have to worry about any of the mixing or the mastering or you know
Mm.
finding people to play the cello because we threw cello in there. You know, I didn't have to worry about making any of that happen. All I had to do was sing
Mm.
and push the vocals to places they wouldn't have gone. Like the guys wouldn't have gone vocally where I pushed them to go.
Hmm.
Um, so Yuka ended up doing the duet with me, and like his first vocal track that he sent through was sort of very very like raw and basic, and like
Mm.
I obviously am a more developed vocalist maybe, so I kind of pushed it in directions they wouldn't have gone in. So I think we all grew from the experience as well, I think
Sure.
like Yuka grew vocally, and he'd always wanted to do a duet, so it was interesting for him to have to try and match his vocals to somebody else's and kind of push his vocal range a bit to kind of keep up with mine. And yeah, it was great for me to step into a genre that isn't my own.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think there was a lot of growth there.
And sometimes as well with rock, particularly if you're sort of a male-led band, there's sometimes the song needs that sort of needs a female voice on it, just with whether it's the range or the subject matter or whatever, and it just works. I just find, particularly when men and women sing together, it's very special. It just the two merge. You know what I mean? It just the female vocal and the male vocal, and there's something about that. And they don't even sometimes they don't even need to harmonize either. I mean, it's the harmonies are great, but when they sing in the same key or whatever, it just kind of really works.
Yeah.
It's a nice the one that really sticks out to me is there's a band in Pretoria called Punkfontein, and they wrote, which is the best name for a punk band. It's just Punkfontein. It's great. But they wrote a song called Leviathan, and I don't know if they did it, but there's a singer out here called Neil Vanerding who sort of did the chorus
I
with
actually
them.
know, yeah.
Do you know Meal? Yeah. So check out Punkfontein Leviathan with Men Meals is on the chorus and with that, and it just works. It's such a good collaboration there. That was a smart collaboration to get there. So because it just sort of I don't know, it really gives it just gives the chorus something. And it kind of just works. It was interesting, sort of how they heard. I love to sort of have that story, but a really cool track as well, So it can
I
really
think it
sort of.
adds drama, that
Mm.
contrast is a powerful thing. Contrast adds, like, it kind of draws your attention more than something that is just, I mean, a song with just a male vocalist is great, but, I think when you've got that contrast between sort of dark and light, masculine and feminine,
Mm.
you're kind of pulled to listen more intently to each piece,
Mm.
maybe.
Yeah.
And it adds drama, makes it more like
Mm.
full and sort of, yeah,
Sure. Jimmy Page
really
refers it to
powerful
as the
thing.
light and shade. and sort of achieving, there's songwriters who just have it naturally. Bowie or Billy Corgan have these androgynous sort of things about them, with their writing, not necessarily vocally, but the way they write, sort of light and shade, and as you say, male and female, male, whatever. And it's something to achieve in songwriting, definitely. And collaboration is a good way to sort of get it, through the audio, sort of achieve that. It's nice if you can get it right. I'm just trying to think of great albums, the collaborations. Do you have any great collaboration albums that sort of stick out into your mind? Good examples of
Do you
this.
know what? Actually, individual tracks, not even like whole albums. So there was a track that Seether did, the lead singer Seether did with Amy Lee from Evanescence. You
Okay.
remember that track? It was also
No,
another
I
one. So it
probably
came out
heard
the
it.
same time.
I need to look out for it.
It came out the same sort of time as that Evanescence and Dido track. And again, so powerful to
Mm,
have his like throaty, kind of grungy, like vocals matched with her sort of angelic like harmonies. And that
mm,
contrast between was so important to how the story was being told.
yeah.
And that story of kind of like love and conflict,
Mm,
and I think that had either of them sung it individually, it still would have been a good track, but it was so much
yeah.
better because it had that contrast of the feminine and the masculine
Mm,
kind of tones in it.
yeah, sure.
And that one really stands out to me as a particularly good collaborative
Mm,
track.
track, yeah.
And again, I mean, I know they're in a fairly similar genre, but I do think it pulled across people that were fans of the one band over to the other
Mm.
and vice versa.
Yeah, it's quite a clever move if you can pull it off, definitely. There's a few.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. There was a great one, with Willie Nelson's Heroes album. There's two that really stick out for me. Heroes. Have you heard Willie Nelson's Heroes? He just had
Yeah, yeah,
God, Snoop Dogg, he had Chris Christopherson, his son Lucas Nelson,
yeah.
is really doing good things now, and all these
Yeah.
weird and wonderful vocals. Cheryl Crow, one of them. Is it Come Round to the House or something? I think it's Lucas Nelson and Cheryl Crow and Willie Nelson. It's a gorgeous track. But as you said,
Yeah.
it's those. I can't imagine those songs with just Willie Nelson singing on his own now. Just it's
Certain,
interesting.
and I mean, the, raising that particular album has kind of reminded me of sort of there are a couple of globally renowned collaborations that have happened that sort of were like, in aid of sort of different um like live aid and like sort of different war um charities or different human rights charities is the word I'm
Hmm.
looking for here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm trying to think of the exact name of the tracks, but there were tracks where literally there were like 40 different musicians from around the world collaborating on those tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can remember watching a documentary on Netflix a little while ago about one of those particular tracks, and it had so many big name artists, and they all kind of came together on the night of the Grammys. They went to the Grammys and left the Grammys and all
Mm,
headed into the recording studio to go and record this track.
mm.
And it was, I think, a real challenge with all those kind of egos in the
I
room
gotta
to
imagine.
get it down and get it done because everybody had this like, need to be the in the limelight and be the head, the lead. And with
Yeah,
collaboration, you can't do that. You got to leave your ego at home.
yeah. It's about the
Which
song,
I think
isn't
is
it?
also
It's about that
absolutely,
song.
it,
Yeah.
it really is.
So I saw a great
And I mean, I know like
documentary.
even
Sorry, Karen.
no, I was just going to say, like, after Johnny Clegg passed away, I know a whole bunch of South African artists came together to do a cover of a Johnny Clegg track and do a
Yeah.
collaborative cover. There was Karen Zoid, Jesse Clegg, there were
Mm,
a whole bunch of people, and it was an amazing, amazing tribute
mm,
to him as an artist. And
yeah.
it held so much emotion, and it was fantastic to hear all those contrasting kind of genres coming together to
Mm,
create a new version of something we all know and love, which is also really
sure.
powerful.
Sure. That was that. I remember that track when it came out. Did he catch his like farewell tour when it was his last tour? I actually went to go watch it. I actually went with my parents. Um, we all went to, and it was almost like the three of us needed to say goodbye. 'Cause Johnny Clegg was just part of the
Yeah.
furniture, wasn't he? Growing up, I'm 44, so Johnny Clegg was always around me. And when I lived in England, even, it's when I lived in South Africa and Africa, in Botswana and that, Johnny Clegg was just there. But then when I went to England, how like I realized how important he was as a figure. You know what I mean? Just as part of my youth, my soundtrack of my life is part of that. It was a great tribute, wasn't it? And it was such a sad farewell tour. I tell you, that whole sort of watching him just say goodbye, it's like, wow, this is the last time I'm going to see Johnny, and it was awesome. His son's doing very well out of that. Talk about collaborations. The son
Yeah,
was played on that tour, and it's really sort of a
you did.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost a
Yeah.
tour like he passed on the baton, or it kind of allowed him to step out of
Mm.
that shadow. It's a big shadow. To be a child of Johnny Clegg,
Huge.
to try get into music, it was like, oh, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, I also I went to the show that was here in Durban at the ICC. So I also
Mhm.
did get to catch one of the shows of that tour, of his final tour. And again, like you, I went with my other mother, my adoptive mom, and it was the same sort of thing. We had this very nostalgic evening. It was very
Mhm.
emotional. She had actually known Johnny Clegg during sort of the early apartheid era, and so it was like a very emotional evening for us, and it very much like a
Mhm.
goodbye. And it was funny because I've actually been a fan of Jesse Clegg's music for like quite a while before that, like many years before that.
Mhm.
So it was, like
Mhm.
you said, I mean, an interesting thing. Like Jesse Clegg chose a genre that was so unlike his father's in so many ways. Like his music was much more like rock rather than like
Yeah,
Afro Muscandi pop.
yeah.
Um, and I think they were so deliberate. And yet during that tour, you could see that they could still share that space and share the sounds. And yeah, it
Mm.
was a powerful thing. And I mean, my music is so heavily, especially my African influenced music, is heavily influenced by Johnny Clegg, by his sounds, by his songs, even by his music videos. Like I've got a track, Africa Rising, that is literally written about a Johnny Clegg music video. Like that
Right.
was the inspiration for the track.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think, I mean, that's another form of collaboration in a really like obscure kind of way, is that, anything in life that influences you in a way is collaborating with you as an artist.
Yeah. Mm. Well, in a sense, the Johnny Clegg's music was a collaboration of cultures, in a sense, sort of bringing this sort of Western pop sensibilities with local sort of guitaring styles, sort of South African guitaring styles, if you will, and vocals, and sort of jumping between English and Zulu and stuff. It was all very, that collaboration. If you want to talk, if you want to really go into the deepness of it, that sort of mix of, and it was a brave move at the time, particularly if you consider at the time, this white guy dressed up in sort of Zulu sort of paraphernalia, if you will, and traditional doing traditional dance, because he's a really good dancer, Clegg, as well. Sort of that sort of Zulu traditional dancing, and that whole collaboration there, of just culture, and how he made it work was so clever. So clever, sit there, and so South African. Yeah, it was. And I guess in a way, it's almost, if we really look into collaboration, it's about stepping outside your shell, isn't it? And you
It's a
know,
beautiful way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, kind of going out and sort of going, as you said, going into record with a music you've never recorded before, and sort of going, yeah, it's it's interesting.
I think it's
So,
about learning to say yes to challenges. Like I
mhm,
think if we don't challenge ourselves as people, we don't grow, right? So like Johnny
mhm,
Clegg is a prime example of how he challenged cultural and societal norms
mhm,
through the music he was creating. He was literally sort of ostracized from his country and had to live in exile with his band in the US and the UK, because of the music he was creating,
mhm,
because it challenged a governmental regime, a societal norm, and it was good art and good music. It should be about changing the world for the better. And I think in this day and age we're right back there. We're
yeah,
back at that pivotal point where art and music has again got to raise its head fearlessly
Hmm.
and say the things through music that you can't necessarily say as honestly in other forms, you know?
Yeah,
And like we've got to, it allows us to express the emotions of really pivotal times in history more accurately and honestly, perhaps, than we could do it if we were just talking about it, you know?
sure, sure, yeah. It's now it's getting deep. It's going, but it's at the, but it's true. It's like, that sort of collaboration. I read somewhere that he used to go to like the hostels, to go because the guys, particularly like the Zulu hostels, where the sort of Zulu labor would have stayed in the mines, and go like watch the guys do their dancing and stuff like that. And it's a pivotal. It's odd that I think he studied what's the study of culture. I need to, but he actually was he studied. I mean, just studying culture. Let me just get the name of it quickly.
Anthropology.
Is it anthropology? Yeah. So he was, but he got to the point where he was
Pretty sure
actually
it's
lecturing.
anthropology.
Yeah, okay. But he actually got to the point where he was sort of lecturing and stuff before actually became a full-time musician, which is bizarre. So I mean, it's
Mm.
it's not a shock, and sort of is in depth into it. But here's an interesting thing of bands and sort of how a collaboration can resurge of someone's career. um, Robert
Mm.
Plant from Led Zeppelin. Um,
Yeah.
the high squealing rock singer. He defined us. He created a stereotype. The skinny, sort of androgynous front man. Sort of s- singing at really high ranges and stuff like that. And then he got old. He couldn't keep that up. Particularly, and there's been sort of all like Zeppelin sort of spin-offs, Page and Plant, and they've tried all sorts of things. And then one day he
Mm.
decides to do an album with Alison Krauss called Raising Sand, and they did this and they got good producers in. And it's this collaboration with Alison Krauss, who's like a bluegrass singer, sort of West country and Western gal, they sit there
Mm.
and just the most gorgeous voice, sing. And the two of them, and he kind of rediscovered himself through sort of Americana folk and bluegrass and stuff. And they did the Raising Sand album together. And I absolutely adore Robert Plant's voice now as an old man, and he sings at lower registers and everything's like full of emotion. And I think he's in that fortunate place where he can kind of do whatever he likes, as well. He can,
Mm.
but the two of them together and just like the harmonies and the way they say, we are talking earlier about sort of when these sort of male and female vocals sort of merge and it just works. And that was a collaboration that did he he was it's Robert Plant, but I really feel it sort of rejuvenated his career in a different
Mm.
way. He stopped being the Led Zeppelin singer and became Robert Plant after that album, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's really, really
And I
sorted
mean,
his
now I feel
career
like I
out.
need to go and listen to that. I'm actually so inspired to go and listen to that now.
Yeah, I'll
It
send you a
sounds
link.
amazing.
Yeah, I think T-Bone
Yeah.
Burnett produced it, and yeah, they threw money at this album. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
they got this great sort of session guys on and stuff, but it was more the concept. It was so left field. It came out left field, definitely, and it really did. And he just refound his voice with her. Definitely, that
Mm.
experiment, stepping up the bugs. Because I mean, you had the Zeppelin when Zeppelin put the band back together, they played the what you call it for one night only at the old Millennium Stadium. I don't know what it's called now, the Millennium Dome in London. And
Like
I
O2
watched some of the
Stadium or
video.
something like that now.
Yeah, O2, yeah, that's here you go. O2, I'm showing my age here. And but the again, it's like when I watch the Rolling Stones and sort of Jagger prancing about and that, and you just like, just do you mean to get you a wheelchair grandpa so you can sing, Brown Sugar again? Do you know what I mean? It kind of feels like that, and I
Mm.
don't begrudge the Stones, for sort of making money, but it kind of got to that thing, and where the Zeppelin was is just like guys rehashing their past, and then for him to come out before that. And I think in a way that whole gig happened because of that Raising Sand album. But for me to see this guy, a Rock Hall of Famer, rediscover himself, it's so late in life. It's just beautiful. The other one was Highways, Johnny Cash's Highways, the American Highways albums. When he did all those covers. He didn't do any collaborations on
Yeah,
that, as
yeah.
far as I know, but it was almost like just that stepping, as you see, stepping outside your box and going in to try something new. And I think the collaboration with Johnny Cash there was Rick Rubin, those two, coming together. I wish Rick Rubin and Johnny Cash finally started sooner. I think that would have
Mm.
been, yeah.
I, I definitely hear you. I think there's certain times where you collaborate and find something that is so much more who you actually should be as an artist, and you just wouldn't have found that if you
Mm,
hadn't kind of pushed yourself through the collaboration.
mm.
Um, Another great one that comes to mind is actually Linkin Park and Jay-Z. Do you remember that Linkin Park and Jay-Z
Yeah.
collaborative
And that came out of
album?
nowhere, didn't it? I remember that. Yeah, that
Jeez,
was
and
very cool.
so completely like genres you would never have thought
Mm,
to put together like that, and it was
mm.
absolute pure magic.
But this is what's interesting about the hip hop genre, and what I respect about hip hop is this need to try something different, create a new sound, and kind of heavy metals there as well. So it's funny how heavy metal and hip hop are sort of have this similar mindset between, so polar
Yeah,
opposite, but the similar mindset. Let's
yeah,
try something new. Oh, this will be an interesting idea, and sort of go, let's work together. Let's see how this goes. And I think Jay-Z and Linkin Park was just so smart. It was just such a smart thing because I think Jay-Z knew it's like you got all these new metal kids who are, really, really into rap. Why aren't we accessing this? It was a very cold business
yeah.
decision at the same time, I think, which is interesting. Um, you know, but it's how
You
important
know,
hip
I
hop's
think for me,
become.
it's an interesting one because I grew up with a great love for both metal and hip hop. You know,
Mm,
growing up for me, I was kind of like a fan of like See the when they so Sarin Gas originally, and then See the,
mhm,
and I was a fan of Evanescence when they started out, which is obviously not heavy metal, but it's like more like alt rock.
mhm,
Um, sort of Nightwish. That was like my great love. And then alongside that, I was a huge fan of Ja Rule, Eminem, like and like I also loved Linkin Park. So I was definitely one of those kids that
mm,
had a foot in both doors, you know. And I think
sure.
the reason is probably that both appeal to that sense of rebellion, you know,
Mm,
both appeal to that sense of like needing to break out
mm.
of the confinements of life and just like rah.
Yeah, sure.
And I think I was one of those teenagers that definitely needed that outlet.
Mm, sure, sure. As what's his name from what you call it, Rage Against the Machine, Zach something, but it's just like fuck you, I won't do as what you told me to do. That lyric won't tell, and that kind of sums up the 90s. I think it's interesting when you look back how different the world was. Sort of entering the world of adulthood in those times from teens ago. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary about Woodstock 99 called Trainwreck. It's a series on Netflix called
Oh,
Trainwreck.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God. Now I remember when that festival came out, and I was a teenager in Midrand. It was 19. It was my matric year. And I just remember going, oh man, that looks amazing. I wish I did. And then, but the SABC gave like a little sort of edited package in the evening after the day, and we'd watch it, right? And it was great. And then you watch Trainwreck, documentary. It was an absolute shit show, that whole thing. But the reason I bring it up is the what you call Limp Bizkit came on, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the carnage began after Limp Bizkit on the Saturday, which I didn't know. For me in those days was just watching Limp Bizkit for like 8 minutes, the 8 minutes highlight reel till they went to the next. And
Yeah.
it was just an absolute that rebellion, as you said, really like Limp Bizkit's another one. And again, that sort of collaboration of genres of rap and sort of metal, that new metal sound, probably, and Rage Against the Machine, those sort of bringing hip hop into heavy metal, and and it worked. It worked, doesn't it?
So
It's like,
well.
yeah, it was such a good sort of mix there. Are there any actual like genuine hip hoppers actually just started doing rock? I think one comes to mind is Ice-T. I think Ice-T had like some metal albums.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
Ice-T.
yeah, yeah,
Ice-T is an amazing, amazing artist across so many. I mean, he's an incredible like actor as well. Like
yeah. He's got like
he's
a
like
reality
quite a
show now, doesn't he?
phenomenal.
In his old age.
I haven't seen that, but
Yeah.
um, all I can say is that I was always like super surprised by that man's ability to cross genre in every regard, like
Mm.
from hip hop through to like sort of metal through to like, acting and just like actually an incredible range of diversity in
Dawn, I'm
one
going to
human
stop you
being.
there. We're going to go to part two. Okay. I'll catch
But
you
yeah,
now. So just tune in more for part two on collaborations and then probably go into marketing.